Hey there, and welcome to the Catching Up with Casey show, where we talk about anything and everything that has to do with building cohesive, vision-driven teams. I am Casey Watts, school impact strategist and the host of this show. Now, if you are here, then you inevitably are an instructional leader who wants to make change happen, even when change seems impossible. And you can do that if you have cohesive, vision-driven teams that have done clarity work. They know exactly where they're headed and how they're going to get there. These teams have done identity work, and they've built their self and social awareness skills. And they have done collaboration work, and they know how to move beyond faux collaboration to get to true collaboration where change happens and where people get on board. I'm so excited to bring to you conversations that help you to do exactly that. The work that needs to be done to build cohesive, vision-driven teams. Now, with all of that said, let's dive into today's conversation. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode. We are in episode 52, where we are going to be talking about, like I said, anything that has to do with building cohesive, vision-driven teams. And tonight's episode is specifically about how principals can utilize instructional coaches for campus-wide success, or to at least implement some campus-wide success and get to their targets. Now, this episode came about really as a partner to the previous episode, which is all about how instructional coaches can partner effectively with principals, because I hear time and time again in all of these different coaching groups and in my work with instructional coaches that sometimes partnering with a principal can be challenging. And it sometimes results because the principal hasn't really had a coach before and they're not quite sure what to do with them. Sometimes it's the result of just kind of some difficulties with crucial conversations, and it can be really challenging to have someone in place where that floats between teacher and administrator, right? So oftentimes we hear that instructional coaches struggle to find their place in this in-between world between teachers and administrators. So I decided to try to figure out, like, what is it really at the root of it all? What is it that causes these struggles? So I posted a question in one of the coaching groups that I'm a part of. And the question was, or it actually was a fill in the blank statement. And it started with, finish this sentence, working with my principal is blank. Now, not going to lie to you, I really thought that the responses were going to give me a lot of detailed, nitty-gritty information about the struggles that instructional coaches have with working with principals. But it actually turned out to be quite different. So I want to show you some of the responses, and it was like one response after another of all of these coaches who were sharing their thoughts about their principals, their opinions. Look at what people had to say about working with their principals. Okay, I'm loving this. I am actually going to zoom into it so you can see it. Amazing. Someone wrote, let me zoom this out for myself. Someone wrote, a great learning experience. She understands my role and lets me be creative with how I support and coach teachers as long as it aligns with our school and district goals. Now, a lot of people just wrote things like amazing, the best, empowering, a joy, almost seamless. And so I questioned back. So I tried to get them to move forward with that and give a little bit more detail. And I said, tell us more about that. Or how is it empowering? What makes it a joy? And some people expanded on what they had to say. So another person says, he listens to people and is thoughtful before responding. He is humble. Tell everyone who works in his other detailed responses. Amazing. Working with my principal is amazing. She is extremely supportive, is the best listener, problem solver, and mentor, plus always willing to learn. She came to us last year with a middle school background and dove into early literacy like a to the boo. Finish this statement. Working with my principal is one of the best things about being in this position and a literal dream. Now, I know if you are an instructional coach coming to this episode, you either have this experience, you have the opposite experience, or you are working toward this experience, right? Like, this is what we all dream of as instructional coaches, to have this working relationship with a principal that is empowering, a joy, a literal dream. And if you're a principal coming to this episode, then it is likely that you want instructional coaches and other people to say these things about you and your work with them. So tonight, we're really going to be thinking about how we actually get to that. What does it mean to be that principal that empowers the instructional coach, to be a joy to work with, etc.? So we're going to dive into some of these positive responses and see some similarities, consistencies, and patterns across these responses. And it's going to lead me to tell you 4 specific ways that a principal can utilize their instructional coach for campus-wide success. Now, as we are going through this episode, I want to be sure that I give some shout outs to some much deserving principals. And when I posted this question in this coaching group and people commented, I responded and said, hey, I'd love to give your principal a shout out in the next episode. That's this episode. So I'm going to be giving some shout outs along the way. And at the end, I've got all of the names of the principals who instructional coaches gave me. And I'm going to be drawing one lucky principal's name for a giveaway of an Amazon gift card. Okay, so now I think we are ready to dive into, I'm going to give you 4 ways that you as principals, or if you're an instructional coach, ways that your principal can utilize instructional coaches for school-wide or campus-wide success. So we're going to start with number 4. Number 4 is to have them clarify. So principals, you need to have your instructional coach clarify their understanding of their role. Even if in the interview you detailed what exactly the instructional coach would be doing, and they seemed like they understood what they would be doing as an instructional coach. Even if you have started the school year and you've given them some roles and responsibilities, it is so important that they clarify their role, not only for you, but for teachers, for students, and for themselves. This matters because this is going to allow you to decide how you can utilize them in the most impactful way, because you have a clear, common understanding of their role. If they can clarify their role, then you know that you are onto something great with this instructional coach. If they struggle to clarify their role, that's a time for you to sit down with them and start to think about, what is it that an instructional coach does here on our campus? How does it look similar to what instructional coaches at other campuses do? And how do we want it to look different, right? And then after they've clarified their role with you, you're going to want to give them time to clarify their role with teachers. We make the big assumption that teachers know what instructional coaches do, right? And we cannot make that assumption. In fact, every single year, multiple times throughout the year, I will, as an instructional coach, clarify my role to all staff, because they lose sight of what it is that we actually do. And sometimes it can be this nebulous thing to have an instructional coach floating around that you don't see as often as you might appear that's in another classroom. So we have to clarify our roles because everyone is inundated with their own to-do list, their own things that they're thinking about completing, that they're not giving a whole lot of time and effort into trying to remember, oh, what is it that that coach does? Oh, how can I utilize her? But if we're giving time for instructional coaches to clarify their role time and time again, then we are also opening up the opportunity for teachers to reach out to these coaches regularly and thus work toward this So I want to give a shout out to different. Oh, there we go. Okay. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Rosalinda Rodriguez from Wheeler Elementary in Arizona. This shout out is coming from Adi, I think is her name, Trevino Esquivel. And I'm so pumped that you got a chance, Adi, to just give this shout out to your principal. It's awesome that you get to partner with someone who's making an impact on you and students and allowing you to do your work as an instructional coach. I also want to give a shout out to Jake Herrera in Athens, Alabama. This shout out comes from Shane Leopard, and Shane wants to say, Jake Herrera, you are amazing. And so we are so grateful to have principals like you who utilize your coach well. All right, so number 4 was have them clarify their understanding of their role. And then you also, number 3, want to determine roles and responsibilities. This is crucial because what happens is when a coach is hired, sometimes more often than not, we notice coaches getting pulled to be subs or to do intervention or to do clerical work. It's important to determine in the beginning what instructional coaches should and should not do, what should be delegated to them, what should not be delegated to them. Because if a coach is being utilized as a sub or to lead PLCs, and I mean to like solely lead PLCs, or to constantly allocate resources, then he or she is completely unable to consistently and effectively support any initiative or any vision that you, the principal, have set for the campus, because their brain is being pulled in, or their time, their effort is being pulled in too many different directions. And we don't want that to happen because we want to utilize this really unique role in moving your whole campus forward. It is also important to determine the roles and responsibilities for other people on the leadership team. So I'm making the assumption that your instructional coach is part of the instructional leadership team. And if that's the case, then that means that there are other people, other administrators, maybe the school counselor, who are on that instructional leadership team as well. Well, if none of you have done the work of determining roles and responsibilities and writing them out and then sharing that with your staff, then it makes it a little bit easier to tag on things to everyone's role. And therein lies this situation where we are wearing many hats. Now, I kind of get a little bit frustrated with this phrase and this idea of wearing many hats. And you hear it all the time, right? Like, oh, we wear many hats around here. And you're going to wear many hats. Everyone does. It just happens. It's a nature of education. But it doesn't always have to be so many hats that you can't even begin to do the real work, right? The important work, the right work. And I think we use that as a cop out sometimes to place more things on people to get the job done. when sometimes we don't even know, like, what is the real job here? What job are we trying to accomplish? Everybody's just working, working, working. We're adding hat after hat after hat. But that's because we haven't delegated and determined roles and responsibilities of each of our leadership staff. So if you can do that, if you could determine the roles and responsibilities of your instructional coach, but also yourself as a principal, your assistant principal, your counselor, the office staff, then you know what falls within your realm of responsibility. You know what falls within their realm of responsibility, and everyone else has transparency about who to go to for different things. That is important. And that is one way you can be sure you're utilizing your instructional coach to their maximum capacity and ensuring everyone else knows how to utilize the instructional coach. Okay. So number 4 was have them clarify. Number 3, determine roles and responsibilities for all leadership, staff, and office staff. Now, I want to pause here and I want to give a shout out to these 2 administrators, both at Bonneville Elementary in Arkansas. These shout outs go to Principal Donna Jones and Assistant Principal Christy Morris. Guys, this shout out comes from Teresa Terry, and I know that it is such a joy to work with you. And I just wish that I could experience what she gets to experience as she joins in this work of education. That's awesome. So congrats to making an impact, and just a big shout out to you. Okay, so number 2, here's the number 2 thing that you can do as principals to utilize your instructional coach and make an impact on the whole school, and that is to invite updates. And here's what I mean by this. If you are inviting updates, that means that you are inviting an instructional coach to keep you updated about best instructional practices, right? So you know what to look for in classrooms and you are current on what to look for in classrooms. Let's be 100% honest. Now I'm going to pull this up again, this image, and you guys probably know, especially if you're here as a principal, your plate is completely full. You are the queen or king of wearing many hats, right? And it's hard to keep it all straight. It's hard for you to get on the bandwagon with learning all of the things that are new and all of the research-based strategies. It's just really challenging to be able to get to that. But I want you to notice that one of these states, actually a couple of them, I want us to look at, let's look at the top one, okay? And this says, a great learning experience. She understands my role and lets me be creative with how I support and coach teachers as long as it aligns with our school and district goals. This person is utilizing their instructional coach in a way that supports and aligns to their district goals and their school goals. But I know that this person, this instructional coach, is allowed to do so because the principal trusts that she is staying up to date on best practices. Let's take a look at another. Let's go down a little bit. And this one says amazing. She is extremely supportive, the best listener, problem solver, and mentor. Listen to this. Plus, always willing to learn. She came to us last year with a middle school background and dove into early literacy like a champ. I have experienced principals saying, I don't even have time to read. I don't even have time to listen to the podcast. I don't even have time to pull out the resources that we purchase for our teachers and dig into them. And I'm going into these classrooms blindly. That's defeating, but that's what our principals are dealing with because they have so many other things on their plates. That's where that perspective comes in. And it's sometimes hard for an instructional coach to gain that perspective without the principal experience. But that's where, principal, you can lean into your instructional coach, who was most likely hired because he or she was a runner in the classroom, someone who is a go-getter, really passionate about best instructional practices, and you can trust that they are remaining current in all of these practices and in the latest research and resources. Invite them to update you regularly. You can do that with a weekly or biweekly meeting that you ensure is a protected time for you and the instructional coach to meet together. This can be a time for you to invite updates about not just best instructional practices and research-based resources, but it could be a time for this instructional coach to update you on the happenings of the school lately, things that maybe you just haven't seen or gotten to, and that is okay. Sometimes I think that we have this gap between principals and instructional coaches because some principals are just trying to do it all because they feel like it is theirs to own completely. But if you try to own it completely, guess what? It's going to crumble and you are going to experience burnout and you're going to let yourself down. So invite those updates from your instructional coach, listen with open ears, wide eyes, and be ready to engage in some great conversation with them about instruction, about curriculum, and most importantly, about the people in your school. All right, it is time for a shout out again. I have several names here that I want to give a shout out to. So we are going to start with Haley Van Gott Nelson is giving a shout out to Stacy Hudlin. I've got a shout out to Mark Becker from Michelle Boulin, who I actually have worked with both of them going through a clarity cycle. So kudos to you, Mark. Michelle wants to give you a big shout out. And then let's see. Melinda Kay wants to give a shout out to Brian Cameron, her principal. Angie Wilson is giving a shout out to Kelly Batiste. And then we've got one more, and all of these people will be entered into the drawing. But Jessica Lauer is giving a shout out to Jean McNeil. So we are so appreciative to you for the work you do on your campuses as fantastic leaders. Now, are you guys ready to hear the number one thing that principals can do to utilize their instructional coach? Here it goes. It is to strategically plan and map. Strategically plan and map. Now, this could be that you are thinking about your strategic plan, like your strategic improvement plan for your campus or your district. It could be that you're going through the work of a clarity cycle. And it could be that, you know what, you've just kind of set some goals together for the school year. Regardless of your approach to a strategic plan or map, this is like any other business, right? And imagine yourself, principal, as the CEO leading a team of teams in your organization. You cannot possibly support each team to the extent that you would like, kind of like we were just saying. And so, you have to hire just the right people that will take your vision and attempt to multiply it and move it forward, right? And they can't do this unless there is this really clear, determined vision or a really clear focus, right? Without a clear vision or this determined focus, you can ensure that instructional coaches cannot move anyone forward, because when they go into coaching, they go into conversations, they go into planning meetings or PLCs, they're kind of just going at it blindly. We don't want to lead people through the dark. We want to lead people through a lighted area that's really transparent. They can see all of the obstacles and move and pivot around those obstacles. With a clear vision and with a determined focus, then together as a partnership or as a leadership team, you can script out the critical moves for everybody that's in the organization. Every single team within that organization will be able to work toward the vision and stay on track because you're utilizing the instructional coach. along the way. So you're casting a vision. Instructional coach takes that vision. She knows this is what we are focused on this year. So in every coaching conversation, in every planning meeting, in every PLC, in every professional development, guess what she's going to bring up again and again? She's going to bring up the principal's instructional focus. And that is going to allow your campus to experience success and move collectively forward together. Okay? So let's revisit the 4 things that you can do to utilize your instructional coach for campus-wide success. Have them clarify their role, what they do, why they do what they do for you, for teachers and students, and for themselves. Determine roles and responsibilities for everyone on the instructional leadership team, and then make that super transparent for the whole staff. Invite them to update you regularly about instructional practices, about people and the people development that they are doing on your campus, and about resources. And then most importantly, number 1, you must do the work of strategically planning and mapping a focus for the school year so they know exactly what it is they're trying to get teachers on board with. Okay, so those were the 4 major things that you can do to utilize your instructional coach for campus-wide success. Now, I want to share who our winner is for this gift card. Now, remember, I was giving shout outs to several principals and assistant principals in this episode. Now it's time to see which of those is going to win an Amazon gift card, and I will be in touch with whoever our winner is. So I'm going to share my screen, and I've already got their names entered in. Are we ready? Let's see. How do I do this? Do I just click on click to spin is what it says. All right, here we go. And the winner looks to be like Stacy Headland. All right. So I don't know if you guys can see or hear the claps in the background, but awesome. Stacy Headland is our winner, and I will be in touch with you guys soon. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys next week. And I can't remember exactly what I'm focused on next week, but catch up with me on social media, and you will ensure to see those updates. All right, have a good week. Bye, everybody. Hey guys, I want to give a huge shout out to you for tuning into today's Change Catalyst conversation. I would love for you to do me 2 solid favors. Number 1, if you have enjoyed this or any other Change Catalyst conversation, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I've got a lot of great content and guests coming up, and I don't want you to miss any of it. Number 2, if you are thinking of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this show, share it with them. The only way to make change happen is through a multiplier effect. And you can be a multiplier by sharing this show. Until next time, I want you to go off and do the great things that Change Catalysts do.